Good afternoon, everyone. It's about 1 o'clock on the East Coast. It's noon in Central Time, and my name is Jonathan Hoy. I'm with HotDocs, and we will begin today's discussion or our introduction to document assembly, NebDocs, and HotDocs Market. I thank you all for your time and interest in the product and the service that is both NebDocs and HotDocs Market. As indicated in the email invite, questions can be asked through the chat window using the GoToMeeting chat window. I will answer them as we go through. I will verbally answer them, and then we'll also have some time at the end of the presentation today to do some additional Q&A as needed. So hopefully you can see my screen here. The agenda for today's discussion is as follows. So for those who are unfamiliar with document assembly as both the concept and in the practice, I'll walk through a definition of document assembly. I'll explain what HotDocs is and HotDocs Market, because there are some distinctions between those two. We'll walk through what NebDocs is and how does one subscribe to the service or to the product. What are the benefits of using NebDocs? And then I'll spend the bulk of our time today walking through a demo of the NebDocs product on HotDocs Market. And then, as mentioned before, I'll give a Q&A, or I'll allow for some time for Q&A. But if you do have questions as we're going through this, feel free to use that chat window. So, what is document assembly? Document assembly is the idea and the practice of taking documents you might use frequently within your practice, forms, wills, trusts, a whole host of legal documents you might use over and over again in your practice. And the idea is to apply a software system, a software program that effectively shortens the time for you to present and prepare your documents. It also ensures compliance and increases the efficiency of your practice. And it would do so as follows. Take a document or set of documents that might be used in your law firm. And the HotDocs software, it's called HotDocs Developer. It allows organizations or individuals, so in this case organizations such as the Nebraska State Bar Association, to convert documents or templates, or create templates by using this variable text field concept. So in other words, if you have where it's indicated in these orange fields, if you have something like the client name or their address or birth date, or and again, the variables can be can obviously be across the board, and we with the HotDocs developer software create these templates. The templates are built in with logic. So for example, if you have the birth date or the death date, depending on obviously the form you're using, the HotDocs software helps calculate the various components that would be produced as part of this template. So the way, however, that the software engages with the end user is that there's an interview that pops up. So think, if you will, TurboTax, where you fill in the variable information and it's married into the final document. That's essentially document assembly. So data, and you'll see this when we do the demo of NebDocs, data is entered by into the template by the user using this, what we call the wizard. And once that wizard once those variable information elements have been entered, the HotDocs software marries the variable info to the underlying template that in this case was created by the Nebraska State Bar Association. This essentially saves you the time of having to go through and enter the information into each document yourself. The nice thing is it can be used over and over again, because the information that was entered into this variable fields is treated as what we call an answer set or an answer data. And as you can see here, it can be reused for subsequent document creation, meaning you don't have to enter that data over and over again. It's basically entered once and it's filled in additional documents as needed. So who is HotDocs, or what is HotDocs? HotDocs is the global leader for document assembly technology across multiple industries. Certainly we began our business in the legal industry, but we also extend to areas like the banking industry, the insurance industry, things like this. As you can imagine, a bank with all their mortgage lending documents, or an insurance company with their claims information, all of these industries, and obviously the legal industry, take advantage of the power of the HotDocs software to create forms and templates and interview wizards to essentially improve the productivity and the speed at which they are completing these forms on behalf of their clients. Our corporate ownership is in Edinburgh, Scotland, but we have offices in Chicago, Columbus, Dayton, Ohio. I'm actually here in Dayton, Atlanta, Portland, and Salt Lake City. And Salt Lake is where our software engineers reside. There's over 1 million users using HotDocs today. We have 8,000 clients worldwide and a global network of 50+ partners. HotDocs is installed in over 45 countries around the world, and we have awards from a variety of organizations recognizing the power of the HotDocs software. So what is HotDocs Market? So we talked about HotDocs as the software that helps to generate the templates, but what is HotDocs Market? Well, essentially HotDocs Market is 3 things. It's a legal workflow efficiency tool. In other words, it helps you as an attorney generate operational efficiency. You're able to use the HotDocs Market and the templates that are offered for subscription on HotDocs Market to improve the speed at which you practice, or the efficiency at which you practice. This allows you, because you're spending less time filling out forms, this allows you to spend more time and ostensibly value for your clients. It also helps you mitigate risk by using content on HotDocs Market, or as we indicate here, this efficiency tool. Because you're not using the old control, find, replace methodology, if you will, with say a contract you may have had from a prior client, and you want to just switch out some of the variables using that control, find, replace element from Microsoft Word. What happens if you forget a pronoun, or forget to change a pronoun, for example? The advantage with HotDocs Market is the software automatically changes these pronouns for you through the interview wizard. So it helps you mitigate risk in terms of the way that you're practicing law. For publishers, such as the State Bar Associations, HotDocs Market is a publishing platform. It's a tool, it's a distribution platform for them to deliver content to members such as yourselves. In some ways, it helps them reduce costs. So if you've used the prior version of Neb Docs, for example, on the desktop, or the desktop version of Neb Docs, and if you go back even further, when they used to have CD-ROMs, for example, with the forms of their product on CD-ROM, that was obviously a cost component for the publisher. With HotDocs Market, because it's cloud-based, we're able to reduce that cost proposition, and you'll see this in a moment when we go through the demo. And in many situations, and the Nebraska State Bar being one of them, the HotDocs Market is considered a member benefit. You have to be a member of the Nebraska State Bar Association in order to subscribe. So this is why we describe this as a member benefit. And the third way of describing HotDocs Market is an e-commerce platform. I'm going in a bit of reverse order here, but think iTunes for legal forms. In other words, it's a platform where you can put down your credit card, subscribe to content, and use that content on the platform itself. You don't have to install any software. You can use any device with a web browser. So you can use your iPad, you can use your Microsoft Surface, you can use your iPhone. I've even tried, and it works, to use the Siri feature on iPhone to help fill in some of the fields. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that as a common practice, but the point is that it is a flexible system, and it is a system that allows you to subscribe quite easily and get access to the forms that you need when you need them. So what is NebDocs, and how does one subscribe to the service? NebDocs is a collection of 584 automated legal templates. These templates cover a variety of practice areas, including or not, including family law, corporate law, guardianship, probate, real estate, workers' comp, and we'll go into some more of the details on this when we get to the demo. But the point is, it's a very wide range collection of the legal templates that enable you as an attorney to practice, again, in a variety of law where forms or documents are needed. And these documents have been wed to the HotDocs system so that they actually are able to produce, you're able to produce the completed document much more quickly than if you were to have to design it by yourself or pull down one from, say, something you found on the web. The nice thing about or one of the nice things I should say about NebDocs is that you have the backing of the Nebraska State Bar. In other words, they've gone through the effort to vet and identify and produce these forms. So you have the assurance that you're working with quality documents. As I mentioned before, it is a members-only product. You have to be a member of the Nebraska State Bar Association in order to subscribe. The way this is controlled, and again we'll see this in a moment when we do the demo, is you have to use the email address that you have associated with your Nebraska State Bar Association membership in order to gain access to the subscription page. So before you even put your credit card down, you have to put that information in first. As mentioned before, NebDocs is really a tool for you to use in your practice to improve your efficiency and, as you'll see in a moment, the profitability of your practice. How does one subscribe? Subscriptions are fairly straightforward. You go to hotdocsmarket.com. You go to Marketplace. You'll see the tab here on the second tab, and then you scroll through and you find NebDocs. You click on NebDocs, and that's when the process to begin the payment begins. And again, I'll demonstrate that in just a moment. What are the benefits of using NebDocs? NebDocs and Hotdock Market is the only document assembly platform in the cloud offering, as we saw, a wide array of legal templates authored by the Nebraska State Bar Association. The content is accurate and is up to date. One of the great things, and this is the third checkpoint or bullet point here, the automatic updates. Unlike some of the systems out there where you might have to go and proactively get updates through an RSS feed or something like this for content or for forms. With the HotDocs Market system and the NebDocs product on HotDocs Market, when the publisher, in this case the Nebraska State Bar Association, makes a change or an update to its forms, you as a subscriber automatically get those updates. You don't have to do anything, basically, other than keep your subscription up to date. Those updates are sent to you automatically. You receive an email notification, and you have the assurance that that you're using the most recent version of the form or the documents. As I mentioned before, because it is web-based, there's no software to install. You don't have to install any HotDocs specific software. You can use the NebDocs product anytime, anywhere, on any device with a web browser. One of the other benefits is its affordability. NebDocs offers you unlimited use of the forms, of the 586 forms, for $199 per user per year. Effectively, that's about 55 cents a day. And if you think about it in terms of client fees, one client would basically cover the cost of this, depending on how you bill, of course, but one client could cover the cost of this entire product, after which it's all gravy for you after that. It's an efficient service, and you'll see this again when we get into the demo. It does help you generate cost and time savings because you're spending less time filling out the forms. You're able to actually spend more time, as I mentioned, with your clients or with other activities running your practice. And we are a US-based service. Our colleagues, as I mentioned in Salt Lake, are native English speakers. They are available to assist with your with your NebDocs subscription, Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. And it's all part of that $199 subscription. So there are a multitude of benefits of subscribing to NebDocs. One that I should mention here, and it's not on the slide, but we've recently worked with the Nebraska State Bar Association to produce a product called NebDocs for first years, or NebDocs for new admittees. And essentially, this is a discount on the price for first-year attorneys in Nebraska. To take advantage of that product and the cheaper subscription price, I recommend you reach out to the Nebraska State Bar directly, and they can get you set up. You have the exact same access, the exact same content. It's just at a lower price to get you introduced or get you used to the NebDocs product. So we've walked through what document assembly is. We've walked through what HotDocs and HotDocs Market are. We've just seen what NebDocs, the NebDocs product, how you subscribe to it, and the benefits. So let's go ahead and jump into a demo of the product itself, and I'll walk you through the subscription process and then how we actually go about using the service to generate efficiencies for ourselves. So bear with me 1 minute. I'm going to go ahead and log into the product. Getting this black bar, but bear with me a moment here. See if this thing will go away if I click on the marker tab. Nope. Hang on 1 second, folks. I will be right back. Okay, sorry for that delay there. So we'll go ahead and click on HotDocs Market, get a better view from this particular screen. Hopefully everyone can see this. So HotDocsMarket.com is where you want to point your browser to get to NebDocs. There are other State Bar Association products and other publisher products on HotDocs Market. In some ways, we're kind of like a shopping mall, if you will, where we have the building, but the publishers, in other words, the State Bar Associations, populate that shopping mall, and our attendees, or excuse me, our customers are attorneys. So the way to find NebDocs is to go to the third page on HotDocs Market. Yeah, they're arranged alphabetically, and you can see that we have NebDocs here, and the NebDocs for New Lawyers product here is here. This product, again, you'll want to contact the Nebraska State Bar directly. But for the sake of today's demo, we'll look at NebDocs, and again, it's the exact same content. So if we click on NebDocs, you'll see a preview. So note that we haven't put any money down yet. This is simply a way to look at the content before you purchase it. This is just this screen here is just a screenshot, for example, a real estate transfer statement. It's purely there's no ability to assemble the forms here. It's just an example or a screenshot of some of the forms that are available. To get a more detailed view of what is available in the forms, you click on Library. If you're looking for a specific source, or excuse me, a specific form, you can click here. So if we wanted to type in, let's just say divorce, you can see some of the forms that are here. Notice of divorce proceedings. You don't have access to this at the moment because we haven't actually purchased it or logged in, but the point is that you can search for those specific forms that you might need. Again, 584 templates covering a wide variety of legal practice areas and forms. Appellate forms, as you can see here, civil practice, corporations, etc. So a wide range. One thing to note, they also the Nebraska State Bar has also included practice manuals, and these practice manuals are available for view. There's no document assembly in here, but you'll see this in a moment when I log in. Probate System 5. There is the Probate System 5, which is included as part of the $199 subscription and part of the overall NebDocs product. We'll be doing a webinar on specific to the Probate System 5 next month. But I did want to wanted to bring your attention to the fact that that is included in your subscription, as well as, of course, all the other forms that we've just seen. So once we decide that this is something we want and we want to use the service, we click on Login and Add to Cart. Now, I have my demo account ready to roll, but the process is actually quite straightforward. You click on the product. In this situation, I would be a new user, so I'd have to register. And here's where you want to put in, think of yourself as a subscriber. You'll put your first name, last name, you'll set a password. You'll also have to go through the CAPTCHA process here, which basically says you're not a robot. You've probably experienced this before in some of the other online products. And you click the terms and conditions. Terms and conditions, you can click here and read them if you so desire. And once you've gone through this process, you'll create an account for yourself. As I mentioned before, in order to gain access, because this is a members-only product, please use the email address you have associated with your Nebraska State Bar Association account. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and sign in. And this is my demo account here. And the first thing you'll see once we log in is the working session. So think of this as your desktop, if you will. These are the latest forms that I have been working on. And then below you'll have your subscriptions. Now, one caveat to the demo today, I have access to all the various products on Hotdock Market. Most folks will only have 1 or 2 products, maybe 3. It just depends on where you practice or the area or you're interested in certain publishers. But for the most part, you'll probably just have Neb Docs. So just keep that in mind that my system looks a little bit different than what yours has here. This main page is where you'll do most of your work. I mentioned our customer support. You can access them through your My Account page, or you can call them or email them. It's up to you. But let's go ahead and get started in terms of actually using the product itself. And then I'll go through, after we've gone through the demo of the product, we'll walk through some of these buttons here that exist on Hotdock Market. So we'll go to our NebDocs product, and you'll see this mirrors, so it's exactly what we saw on the library page before. So for today's demo, I'm going to go through about 3 or 4 different forms, and if you have specific forms you'd like me to try and demo, feel free to suggest them in the chat room. I'll try and bring that in if we have the time. Okay, so let's try, and just for clarity's sake, the other forms, you use the scroll bar to get to the forms that are down below here. So let's look at, why don't we try family law for the sake of a discussion here. And let's do an adoption form, or adoption forms. So you find the form that you might need. It could be a petition for adoption, whatever the situation might be. So let's use the petition for adoption as a step parent. Note that the output format, in other words, the document once we generate it, is dependent on what the state bar has decided. So in this case, this petition for adoption will be in a Word format, but for example, the birth, father, and social and medical history form will be in a PDF format. One question that often comes up, can I edit these forms? You cannot edit the underlying template, but you can edit the output document, and I'll show you what I mean in just a moment. But let's first go ahead and click on this petition for adoption here. So the first thing you'll see is this ability to name your working session. In other words, this is where you'll want to identify the client by whatever nomenclature, whatever methodology your law firm might use. So if you use, say, for example, last name first, you can do it that way. If you want to use a numbering system, you could do something like this. Again, it's completely up to you. The default, however, is to use the name of the form and then today's date. But again, it gives you, the Hotdocs Market gives you that flexibility to call the product whatever you want, or the working session whatever you want. So go ahead and click on create a new session. So now what's happening is, if you recall, we talked about the interview wizard and the underlying template. What's happening now is that through HotDocs, the HotDocs software, an interview wizard is being generated. So now we start to answer the variable information. So the county that the court is in, I'm just choosing, I'm not as familiar with Nebraska, so my apologies. Let's say Banner is the county. We'll just make up some number here for the adoption case. The adopted child, we'll just call them James Smith. Put our variable information. In terms of the adoption birth date, you can use the calendar icon to select the date. You can manually enter it. One little trick on Hotdocs Market, which will save you some time, is if you type the letter T and then use the tab feature on your keyboard, that will give you today's date. So just think T for today and then tab, and that will create today's date. And then you can manually adjust this if needed. So if I want to put it, a few days behind, again, it's just up to you. So we'll leave that as our adopted child's birth date here. The navigation is quite easy. I personally prefer to use the arrows here, but you can use the interview outline along the side as well. It's up to you. If you use that little pin, that will lock it in. Or if you don't want to see this, you can simply use the arrow keys and that will take care of the panel. So we'll go to the next dialog. So now the interview wizard is guiding us through this document. So names of the adoptive father, so we'll just use my name here, my wife's name. We'll just say we're in Lincoln, in the county. I'll just say Banner for the sake of the demo here. Name of the petitioner, John Smith, we'll make this up. Name of the birth parent, spouse, let's say Smith. And we'll set the marriage date, and again, we'll just use the calendar icon just for the demo purposes here. Move back several years and randomly choose a date here. There we go. So now to move to the next dialog, you simply click on the arrow. And we'll just make up a name. Oops, sorry about that. The child was born, we'll say it was born in wedlock. And we'll say, let's say the child was born in Omaha. Has the attorney made attempts to contact the birth father? We'll just say yes. Have they successfully reached the birth father? We'll show yes. Let's see, in the present case, the attorney represents the following parties. We'll say, we'll use me and my wife's name here. The first date, we'll say it was, again, we'll use our shortcut T, and then, actually, I have to do it the other way. Let's try it this way, 10th, and then we'll use today's date here. So again, we roll through these dialogues here, and for the sake of the timing here, and I want to make sure I leave time for Q&A, I won't go through all these dialogues here, but you get the sense that of what's happening. Let's see, so we'll go through this, various sessions here. We'll say no. What date did they notify the biological father? We'll say, we'll do a shortcut here and make it easier on ourselves. The date of the birth, let's say they waive their rights today. Again, not all this makes logical sense, but you get the sense situation here. So you can see how when we talked about Isaac Jones, for example, or we put the father's name in, the interview wizard has already ported in the information, so we don't have to make a lot of changes to the forms. And let's see, they did that today. They signed this today. And Nebraska adoption medical history. So this is obviously tailored for Nebraska. We'll put some of the information in. I'll leave some of these blank, and you'll see why in just a moment. Now, one thing to note, and this is a nice feature, you can actually preview the document before you actually assemble it. So if you click on this feature here, document preview, this will generate obviously a preview of the form itself. So here's all the variable information that we've already entered into our forms, and the session has already assembled, or at least it will show you what the form will look like. Here is an example of one of the areas we left blank, so the attorney name, but that's because we haven't completed the interview yet. So we'll go back to the interview. You can, I should point out, you can manually save the answers. However, the system, the Hotdock Market system, along with NebDocs, I should say, automatically saves your work. So if you have to take a phone call, have to step away from your desk, or you're out and about, whatever the situation may be, while you're in a working session, rest assured that your data will be saved. It's actually saved every 30 seconds. But if you prefer, as I say, to save it manually, you can certainly do so here. The answer summary, this is just a summary of the variable information we've entered. So you'll see the template we're using, the various questions that are asked or in the interview. I personally don't use it that often, but it is certainly something you have the option to do, and you can print this out if need be. But let's go back to the interview, and it'll pick up right where we left off. So we'll skip some of these. Is there a court from a second state? We'll just say no. However, notice how this is slightly grayed out. If I click yes, clearly now I have the ability to put the data in. In other words, in this case, the other state that might be involved. But for the sake of this demo, we'll say no, there's no other state involved. What number exhibit from the affidavit? I'm not familiar with these, but I'll just make up data here. We'll say it was a paternity case. The original court decree. I'll manually enter this to show you how it works. 2017. The county decree. This has been tailored to meet Nebraska counties. And we'll say there's been no. We'll say that yes, the motion to consent to adoption is here. So as we roll through, is there a federal criminal history? I'm going to skip, again, for the sake of today's demo, some of these fields and show you what happens. Now, notice that I can skip these, and it will not prevent me from assembling or finishing the interview. So again, it's just a feature that allows you to scroll through and complete content as you need. For example, you may want to leave the notary blank, or you could fill this in if you have the notary information. And then here's where you can put your attorney info. So let's just say we'll call our attorney Martha Jones. Say she's female. Oops. Enter her bar number, street address. Let's just say 123 West Saunders, and that's in Lincoln. We'll type our state in here. Oops, there we go. And zip code for, let's 68501. And then we'll make up the telephone number. I'm just obviously putting random data. And now once I've reached the end of the interview dialogues, HotDocs gives me a warning. It says you have 12 unanswered questions. Now that basically is just a list of those fields that we have not completed yet. It will not, as I say, stop the interview from running. So click OK. Our next step is and we've successfully married all that variable information to the underlying template. We click on petition for adoption, or the name of the form here, I should say. And as mentioned before, the output format, as decided by the publisher, in this case the Nebraska State Bar Association, is Word. And as you can see, we have our information here. So I clicked on my word edit, enable edit. So all the variable information has been filled in. So here's my name, my wife, the case number, et cetera, et cetera. Now, one of the questions that often comes up is what if I don't want to use a language that the author, the State Bar Association, has come up with? Once you hit enable editing, you can change this yourself. So, for example, petitioner John Smith is willing and anxious to adopt James Smith. I could say I can make an edit directly onto the document is happy to. It's probably not the language I might use or an attorney might use, but nevertheless, the point is you are able to make edits to the final document, save this to your desktop, and then you can print or email however you want to do this. So that's one example. Let's close that out. I won't save the changes here. I won't save that. Now, you notice how we left certain fields empty. To get back to that, you can hit return to interview, and that will take you right back to the form. And as I mentioned, it does save automatically, so you don't have to re-enter data. If you want to find out where you left off, or where you have some open spaces, you can scroll through. And when I say spaces, open fields, I should say open interview questions. Or this is where that answer summary actually comes in handy. Click on answer summary, you can find where we left information off. So for example, what exhibit number is the denial of paternity? So I can go back to the interview and go back here to that specific field and start to fill that information in. So once you're done with once you've completed your forms, you can use the My Account button. It sits there on top of the interview, or it's up here on the top right, and it will drop in what we've just done in this adoption into our working sessions. So you can see it 8 seconds ago. It's in progress because we still have certain dialogues open, or we haven't filled it in. But again, it's a way to sort of track what you're doing here. So let's look at some other forms on NebDocs. And again, if you have any specific forms you'd like me to demonstrate, just shoot me a note in the chat window. There was a question that came up. Please show the web address for ordering the subscription again. That address is hotdocsmarket.com, and you go to Market, and then you would scroll to the third page to get to the NebDocs product, and then the purchase ability would be here on the right. And I'll review that one more time before we close out today's CLE. So we looked at family law forms. Let's look at how about we look at civil practice forms, for example. So if we click on civil practice, and let's do property damage for the sake of discussion here. So here you might again put the name of the address of the property, or you could put your client name, again, whatever you so choose. We'll click on the start the session. And just to note, this is the warning dialog. It does contain sample language from an example fact scenario. And so you'll see some of this information in just a moment. So let's go ahead and say, we'll use a different county. We'll say Cass County, case number. Again, we'll make a lot of this up. Plaintiff. Let's say it's Tony Stark. I'll use some Marvel characters here. Bruce Banner is our defendant. We'll use today's date. Then notice was sent. We'll just again use today's date. So we'll scroll through this, and so we'll start to put the attorney information in. So we'll just add John Smith, change things up. Name of the law firm, Smith and Smith. Bar number, adding things in from here. 2, 3. We'll just have them the same address. Okay, Nebraska, the zip code is 65801. Attorney's telephone number, we'll just put some random data here. opposing information to the council. Let's see, we'll have Kim Jones, put their bar number in. I won't say Jones Day, that's probably a little too big for this example here, but Michaels. Let's say it's Omaha. Okay, we'll leave some of these blank, and that's what I'm demonstrating here by leaving the phone number blank. That's why it gives me that warning. So once again, we've got the ability to produce a document. In this case, it's a Microsoft Word format, like the last one. We click on the form, or excuse me, click on the Word button, and now we're taken to our product here. And this was the element that came up earlier, saying that, or the warning that came up earlier, because it's an example of a fax scenario. However, when you remove enable editing, we should have this information here. So you would have to go through and add some of the details here. But the point is, you've got this affidavit ready to go. So, okay, so let's go back to my account. And again, you can use this feature here to go back to the account, or you can go here at the top right, and we'll use this one for this case. And we have our working sessions. Now, one thing I wanted to show that makes this quite unique, or at least it's a neat service or a neat component to Hotdock Market, is you can open this interview again. And what you can do is, so this was a complaint for property damage. Let's say that our client was involved in a condo situation, or they had damage to a condo. What I can do is use this feature called Use Another Template. And what it does, it allows me to use any of the other templates that I have in NebDocs where appropriate. So this was a civil practice form, but let's go ahead and add a new template. And what it's going to do is port over some of the relevant data from that from this template, the original template we used, into this new template. So let's say let's use real estate for our example. Since there was property damage, we'll use one of the real estate forms. So click on real estate, and let's say eviction. We want to evict Bruce Banner from our condo because of the damage that was done. So you click on real estate, and we'll use this 14-day notice to terminate the rental agreement. So what it's doing, it's changing the template. It's saving the answers, or where appropriate, where we have already entered the data. So for example, you'll see all the data has already been entered for the attorney. So I didn't have to re-enter that information. Now I just need to do the variables here. So we had Bruce Banner was our tenant. I'll just put gibberish here. Oops. Then we'll move through the dialogue. Section at least, property damage. We'll say Bruce Banner went into a rage and destroyed the place. Let's see the form of notice. Let's say we gave Bruce Banner notice 10 days ago. So let's say on the 8th. And they are required to vacate by, let's say, 08/31, oops, 2017 there, oops. And we'll use today's date for the notice. Our attorney information has already been ported over from our prior interview. And so away we go. Now we have our notice of termination or eviction. So as you can see, it's a pretty quick and easy way to create documents that you don't have to create yourself. You can use templates that were created by the State Bar. You simply fill in all the details and you're guided through that process through the interview process, and away you go. So again, just two examples of content that's used on the NebDocs product. So let's go back to my account. So that's another way, as I showed you, to get back to this page. Your sort of default process is to use the My Account button to get back to this particular working session page and the subscription page. And as you can see, it tracks when we completed or when we worked on our product. You can go to the In Process tab here or the Completed tab here as well if you want the specific forms, but frankly, it's easy just to use the All tab. Let's see, are there any other forms anyone would like to see? If not, I can go through. Actually, one I want to show you is a state form, and I'll show you what I mean by that. So if we go back into, let's look at real estate one more time. Acknowledgement disclosure, the broker form. So this is already in a PDF format as opposed to the Word format, but we'll click on this one here. And we won't give it a name, we'll just use the default. We'll create a new session. And you'll see this logo every time you launch a product. So the licensee dialog here, we'll say it's, let's see, Wanda Maximoff. Name of the company, the Avengers. We'll say the licensee is acting as a limited buyer's agent. And the licensee has informed me that the license will be providing brokerage services to us as a client. We'll go ahead and complete the document here. The answers have been married to this underlying document. And now, as I mentioned, it's in a PDF format. And you'll notice that all the information has been filled in. And it's typically in a PDF format simply because it's a state form, because it has the state seal on here. So again, a quick way to generate one of these type of documents as well. So go ahead and close this. We'll use back to my account, and you'll see it show up here. So here's our acknowledgement disclosure form. Now let's say you no longer have need for this data. It's really easy to get rid of this. You simply go to the Actions button and hit delete, or if you want to rename this, let's say you actually want to apply a name to this. Instead, we just use the default name, but we'll say Maximoff acknowledgement form, and just like that, we've renamed it. Note that your session names are organized alphabetically. You can either do it top down, A to Z, or in reverse. Just depends on how you want to sort the data. Let's see what else we can show you here. So at this point, unless there's anyone wants to see specific NebDocs forms, I want to walk you through some of the operational side of your account on Hotdock Market. The tab you'll see here, transaction history, basically walks you through what you've purchased. As I mentioned before, much like my subscriptions, you'll probably only see one or maybe two products on here. You'll probably just have your NebDocs product. If you click on the icon here, the document icon, this will bring up some details as to your payments, the number of licenses, in other words, number of seats under your account, what your renewal cost would be, what the renewal date will be, and the default for this demo account, as I'm showing you, is to not renew. However, most subscribers choose an automatic renewal of their subscription to NebDocs. If you need to update your credit card payments, you can do it through this tab here, but I'll show you another way to do it as well. And it's as simple as clicking on here, putting in your credit card info, and saving that payment detail. Let's close this out. The order just shows you what product you purchased. In this case, NebDocs. So if you need to print off a receipt, so to speak, this is what this tab would do. So if you use, as I say, the transaction history. One of the cool things that I like about Hotdock Market is the ability to share content. So let's use that 5-seat scenario. So my firm has bought 5 seats. Basically, you'll have one administrator, and then they would have purchased multiple seats. The way that you share those licenses around the firm, you click on Manage Sharing, and what happens is you, as the administrator of the account, can invite others in your firm to take advantage of their subscription. So it's simply a matter of putting the email address in, and I'm just using an example here, NebDocs.com, and you send the invitation out, and the user will get an email inviting them to join Hotdock Market or use Neb Docs under you or your account. In the same way that you invite people, you can also revoke someone's access to Neb Docs. So for example, if you have a colleague who's going on maternity or paternity leave, you can revoke their access and reassign it to someone else simply through the same button, Send Invitation. So revoke and send and invite is your control mechanism for who has access to your Neb Docs subscriptions. So really it's a way to help maximize the value of your subscription. Connected applications, this is a forthcoming feature for Hotdocs Market. Eventually we want to be able to work with somebody like Clio or ActionStep or one of these other legal practice management services that will allow you to import the data from one database into the various fields of your forms on NebDocs. It's a forthcoming feature. I don't have an exact time frame, but it is something we're aware of and something that's been requested from other customers. So just keep in mind that this is something that will, knock on wood, be forthcoming. The My Details tab of your account, this is where you as the account holder, you enter your information. A lot of this information will have been ported over from when you registered as a subscriber, but the My Details tab gives you that ability to also add an alias email address. So you may want to use one email account when you're at work and then another email account if you're working from home. It just depends on what your needs may be. This is another way, and this is probably the easier way, I would argue, to update your credit card details. If you sign in, go to My Account, go to My Details, and here's that screenshot we saw before. Same sort of thing. This is where you would make those changes and updates to your credit card payment so that your continued subscription is assured. Another element to note here on the My Details tab is communications. Communications gives you the ability to opt in or opt out of emails regarding your subscriptions. It could be an email regarding, and I would highly strongly suggest you keep the opt-in for emails regarding updates to your subscription, because this is where you'll get notice from the Nebraska State Bar that a particular form or product has been updated or pricing has changed or whatever the situation may be. So I would, again, strongly encourage you to keep the opt-in button clicked there under My Details. And in fact, the default is to have it as an opt-in. However, you can opt in to receive email about changes to Hotdocs Market and receive offers from other publishers. The interview options. This is something that was built into Hotdocs Market to allow the user to have the option to not save their answer files to the to Hotdocs Cloud, to your account that sits on the cloud. I wouldn't recommend this, but if you do feel like you want to save your answers to your local desktop as opposed to your account here on Hotdocs Market, you would disable this feature by clicking this button here to remove it. It will force you to save your answers to your desktop. Once that happens, then your subscriptions and your My Account, this working session, you wouldn't be able to pull it up from the cloud because you've saved them to your local desktop. So just be aware that you do have that option, but there are some impacts to the way you would work once that goes away. As mentioned, we do have your customer support as part of your subscription. There's no incremental charge. These are native English speakers. They are out of our Salt Lake City, Utah office, and they're able to answer questions regarding the Hotdocs Market functionality and some of the details as it relates to credit cards. If you have questions or concerns, complaints, suggestions as it relates to the content on NebDocs, I would encourage you to reach out to the Nebraska State Bar Association itself to make those comments and questions or concerns. We HotDocs are not the author. We are the publishing platform and the document assembly engine. It's the State Bar that actually creates this content. We just happen to host it for them on this platform. So keep that in mind as you think about the forms themselves or the content itself. So with that, I'm going to move over to the last remaining components of the demo today. I'm opening it up for a Q&A now. If you have questions, and if you want to use the dialogue or the chat box for that, you're more than welcome to do so. Any questions? Like I said, there was one that came in earlier about the ordering page, and that, as I mentioned, is on HotDocsMarket.com. If you go to this tab, the Market tab, go to page 3. And you can see Neb Docs right here. You click on the product you want to subscribe to, in this case Neb Docs. It's a members only product, and then you make your purchase here. It's $199 per user per year. Not a bad deal if you ask me. Like I said, I think it comes out to 55 cents a day, less than a cup of coffee, for, again, a very, very broad product set. You know, some of the other publishers on HotDocs Market have smaller product sets with a more expensive price, but I think you're getting quite a good deal, quite a value from your NebDocs subscriptions. By my clock, we have about 3 or 4 minutes left. If there aren't any more questions, I'm happy to close a little bit early, but I will certainly stick around for other questions if need be. Okay, it doesn't seem like we have any additional questions, so I want to thank you for your time. If you do have questions that come up later, or mentioned if you have questions about the product itself, there is a Nebraska Bar webpage, NebDocs.com. My name, again, Jonathan Hoy. If you have questions about HotDocs, feel free to reach out to me, jonathan.hoy@hotdocs.com. If you have questions germane to or specific to the Nebraska State Bar or the NebDocs product itself, Sam Clench, sclench@nebar.com, is able to help you with questions like that. And if it's general questions, as I mentioned, you can reach out to our customer service team at HotDocs Market, and they'd be happy to answer any questions you may have as well. I thank you for your time. If there's nothing else, I'm happy to close down or shut down today's webinar. Thank you for your attendance, and look forward to serving you as HotDocs Market and NebDocs as you subscribe to the product. Thanks everyone for your attention, and look forward to speaking with you soon. Take care.